Hey everybody, Jem Schofield here at AbelCine in Burbank, California, and I am actually setting up for a lighting workshop, which is starting in a little while. And what I wanted to do was do a short little video about this lighting fixture, which is the Select 30 from Kino Flo. So I want to go over a few things. The first one is that it's in a familiar form factor to what you might be used to if you've used Kinos in the past. The corrugated plastic housing, very, very lightweight. Now this is a 3-foot fixture as opposed to 2- and 4-foot fixtures that you might be used to working with, hence the Select 30 name. And this corrugated outside here, one of the things that's a big change is the hinge system for basically the doors. They've now redesigned the interior of all of these hinges so that they have essentially a steel inside, and it's a 3-part threaded system. And basically they weave that or do something, and it is a much more durable system inside of there. So that's a little thing, but it means a lot when you're working a light on projects on a continuous basis. Over here, the panel itself, this really is part of the lineage of what started with the Celeb light, and that's still part of the Kino Flo line. We basically have this cover here that sits on top of the LEDs. And one thing to note about the Kino Flo LEDs, especially these color tunable ones, is that there are both tungsten and daylight LEDs inside of there. And this particular unit also has RGB LEDs, which lets you do a lot of cool stuff. What does that mean? The way Kino approaches pushing light out of their fixtures is that they want a consistent output. So when you're changing your color temperature, you're getting a consistent output as opposed to maybe sitting in that 4,400 Kelvin range and getting a higher output because you're mixing the daylights and the tungstens at their full brightness. And I think this is a better way to do it because when you're metering and you're talking about ratios, it makes a lot more sense. The other thing to note, and it's kind of hard to see here, but on the top of the unit and on the bottom of the unit, there are actually screws that you can remove. And if you're a gaffer, you can actually take this off out of the housing and you can mount that separately if you want to. If you are used to Kinos, or even if you're not, this comes as a set, and this is a 90-degree, basically honeycomb. So we can basically just have a grid here. There's also a 60-degree with the system, so you can control that light and just minimize that spill and make it a lot more directional if you want to. Now what I want to do is turn the light around, and I'm going to show you a little bit about the back of the light, which is really the entire control center. There's situations when you're trying to rig a light where if you can get this off of here and have the ballast separate and the control unit separate from the light, to me, big advantage. So check this out. And when I saw this, I was very excited. Uh-oh, there it is. So we now are able to take this and we can just unplug and extend this to different lengths. This is I think a 25-footer. You can get a 75-footer, and we can basically move this away from the fixture itself. And again, this is the ballast, so this is regulating the light. No fan on this light, so it's super quiet, but it's also the control center for all of the Select lights. In fact, you'll see that this does not say Select 30 LED. It just says Select LED. It works with all of the Select line of lights. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back, and then we're going to go ahead and get in onto this thing right here, which is the control center, and talk more about that. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the back of this thing. The first thing to point out is it is wireless DMX capable right out of the box. And if you want to go old school, there are the standard attachments here if you want to go with cabled DMX. Everything really happens right here, and it's ever evolving in terms of the firmware for the system. Right now we are at firmware version 2.7, and it will continue again to evolve, which I'm really excited about with newer lighting fixtures. So the first thing that we're going to do is turn on the unit here. I am in what is called the white mode, and that means that I can quite easily with this knob on the side dim the light, and it's very, very granular if I want, or if I tap it in once, then it's actually going to change the brightness in much larger increments. And then I hit the mode button over here, and that switches me over to Kelvin, and I can either adjust that in 25 Kelvin increments, or again, press the button in and it will do it in 100 Kelvin increments. We can switch between 2700 and 6500 Kelvin. And as I mentioned before, this is a regulated output, so you're getting essentially the same output no matter what color temperature you are using. Now, if I go into the menu here and I pop into the General section, this is where we change our mode. And I'm going to switch this now, and I'm going to switch our mode from white to color, and then I'm going to step out of that. And then as soon as I do that, you'll see that the user interface changes considerably. And now when I switch through and I cycle through my different options, we are cycling through basically our brightness, our color temperature, our green magenta shift, which by the way is also in the white mode. We have gels, so there's a ton of gels inside of here. We have a hue option where we can actually change the hue of the light based on a 360-degree color wheel, and this is a big trend that we're starting to see. And then we also switch over here to the amount of saturation that we have for a particular color that we are dialing in. So if I go again over here to, let's say, gels, I can just cycle through deep blue, lavender, pale lavender, and there's a whole bunch of different gels here. And they're not just all colors, they are gels that are simulating some of the most common gels that we would use when we are shooting. For instance, here I have Bastard Amber, which is 37 degrees on the hue and saturation at 19. And then I go over here to hue, and if I want, I can actually then just start adjusting from that point, so I can change it. I'm going to go back into General, and I'm going to switch the mode back to white, step out of that, and again, there is that green magenta shift that I was speaking about, so you can just go ahead and adjust that. And why would we do that? Well, for me personally, it's primarily when I want to match other lights that are in the environment that may be skewing a little bit green or a little bit magenta. It's not that there's a problem with the fixture itself. But this is also one of my favorite features here. When you press these 1, 2, 3, and 4 buttons, they actually are presets for Kelvin temperatures. Let's say, for instance, I wanted to put into this third bank a different Kelvin temperature. I'm just going to go ahead and put in here 4300 Kelvin. It works very similarly to a car radio. You basically just go over here, and inside of your Kelvin temperature, you hold down number 3, and then what will happen is it will blink, and now it has assigned that color temperature to that number 3 button. So really, really great features overall. Okay, so that's the Select 30 from Kino Flo. Really exciting fixture. They also make a Select 20, which is a 2-foot version. Same output, by the way, so if you just need a smaller form factor. But for me, this size is what I'm going to be attracted to for a lot of the production that I do. I'm going to go ahead and get set up for the rest of this lighting workshop. Thanks for watching.